Hello, everyone, distinguished guests and participants, professors and students. Good afternoon. I'm Wang Lan, Vice Dean of the College of Architecture and Urban Planning. I'm responsible for international cooperation and the development of disciplines at our college. And it's my great pleasure to be the hoster this forum. We are so glad to hold the second Global Deans Forum today, especially on the occasion of the 17th our college. I would like to give my sincere and warm welcome to all of you. Thank you all for gathering here and being online. Reviewing the past, we have many great friends for the first Dean's Forum, distinguished professors and dean from all around the world, including University of New South Wales, National University of Singapore, Strasbourg, Georgia Institute of Technology, University of Pennsylvania. There had so many sparkling and cheerful ideas shared and delivered last year. So today, for the second forum, we would like to deepen our communication. It will be a great opportunity for us to share, to exchange insights for new research challenges, ideas on new course design, any innovation and reform that intend to implement in the field of architecture, urban planning, and landscape architecture. We would also love to discuss about new opportunity to further enhance our collaboration in current transformational world with deans here today for this afternoon session. I believe that the inter-institutional visits will have become more easily. We are looking forward to meet you all in person in the near future and carrying out a variety of offline activities, including joint design workshop and research seminars. It would be a start to deepen cooperating among our institutions and also among our professors and students. Now, for our first step, we will have Professor Li Xiangning, Dean of our college, to give the opening remark. He is a famous architectural theorist, critical and curator. Also, he was a visiting scholar at MIT and Harvard. He stepped in as our dean in 2020. Let's welcome Dean Li.
Well, dear colleagues, dear deans from the various architecture schools, teachers, professors, students, good afternoon and good morning, and welcome to the Global Deans Forum, and welcome to the College of Architecture and Urban Planning of Tongji University. Welcome all. The College of Architecture and Urban Planning of Tongji University, as I presented this morning, was founded 70 years ago. Her upbringing is intrinsically linked to the architecture and urban disciplines of many of the world's leading universities, as well as the cities in which the university is located. This morning's forum is themed Design Education in a Transformational World. We listened to the wonderful presentations of the 7 deans from Harvard University, GSD, Columbia University, University of California, Berkeley, Yale University, the Pontifical Catholic University of Chile, China Academy of Fine Arts, and myself on behalf of the Tongji University College of Architecture and Urban Planning. So this afternoon, our forum is going to go on for another wonderful afternoon, we will meet the deans of 6 well-known universities and professors to bring us a series of more wonderful speeches and wisdom coalitions. Shanghai has, as in the city, has provided many elements for the 70 years growing of the CAUP, from becoming the largest metropolis in the Far East after opening of the port in the beginning of the late 19th century and the beginnings of 20th century, to rising to become a representative of Chinese and even Asian cities after the reform and opening up. Shanghai not only brings top scholars of architecture and urban studies to Tongji, but also from all over the world, but also brings inexhaustible research materials and inspirations for the thinking of global design education. I think the discussion and exchange of ideas and concepts will generate a more continuous kind of this dialogues among different architecture schools in the change of design in the after this pandemic. This 3 years of kind of case zero policy, China finally opened up. I think the quarantine policy will be lifted in a couple of weeks. So I do hope that in the coming next year, in the near future, I could welcome all of you to come to Shanghai in person and to see the changes and the new updates of the urban construction and architectural education in our school, as well as in other Chinese architectural schools. I do thank you again for joining us in this wonderful afternoon, and looking forward to the wonderful speeches of all the guests and deans. I wish the forum, of course, a complete success, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Dean Li, for your warm welcome. And I think it's great if we could visit all those partner schools and also invite them to Shanghai very soon. So now I would like to invite all our guests are on your camera. We would have a group photo. Even though it's online, but we still hope we could have this opportunity to be together. Shuxin, 你好了, just let us know. Shuxin is
You're ready.
Yes, Professor Wang, we're all good.
Okay, thank you. All right, we will get into our afternoon session. So the procedure will be, I will give a very short introduction about the dean who will give the presentation. And then after the presentation of the dean, we will invite one of our professors whom has been a good friend of the dean, or maybe also in charge of our double degree, to have a casual conversation. And then we will move on to our next presenter. So the first speech, it will be given by our partner school, the dean from Polytechnical University of Milano, School of Architecture, Urban Planning, and Construction Engineering. Dean Adri Campioli. Dean and Professor Campioli is a professor of architectural technology. He conducts research in the Department of Architecture, Built Environments, and Construction Engineering. And his efforts and interests are focusing on how could improve the technical innovation and life cycle design, and in terms to achieve sustainable development. Now let's welcome Dean from Poly di Milano, Professor and Dean Campioli. Dean, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Lan. I have to share some slides. Okay. Dear Professor Lan Wang, thank you for the invitation and for the introduction. Dear colleagues and students of the College of Architecture and Urban Planning of Tongji University, congratulations on the 17th anniversary of your institution. In my speech titled New Prospects for the Education of Future Architects, Urban Planners, Landscape Architects and Planners, and Construction Engineers, I will try to tell you something about the relationship between our schools, about the history of my school, its cultural project, and its educational offer, and then I will propose some notes about the challenges we have to face in the present and the next years. I gladly accepted the invitation to this Global Deans Forum because a long history links our two schools. The relationship between the College of Architecture and Urban Planning at Tongji University and the School of Architecture, Urban Planning, Construction Engineering at Politecnico di Milano dates back to 2005 with the opening of the Sino-Italian project Politecnico Tongji. Since 2018, our school has been participating in Tongji International Construction Festival. And during the pandemic, we collaborated between schools by activating research and holding shared lectures. We also participated in the Tongji Summer School Zootopia, Building a Shared Future for All Life, with a mixed group of our architecture and landscape students. At the moment, our schools has 3 double degrees in place with the College of Architecture and Urban Planning, 3 positions in architecture, 3 positions in landscape architecture, and 3 positions in urban planning and policy design. During the last 6 years, 67 Chinese students came to Politecnico di Milano, and 23 Italian students went to Tongji University. The School of Architecture, Urban Planning and Construction Engineering is a young school with a long tradition. In fact, in 2016, it was re-established based on previous teaching experiences gained within the School of Architecture and Society, the School of Civil Architecture, and the School of Building Engineering and Architecture, the 3 schools of architecture at the Politecnico di Milano at that time. In this, the School of Architecture, Urban Planning and Construction Engineering today represent an essential opportunity for comparison and growth in teaching in the field of architecture, urban planning, and construction engineering. The re-establishment project was based on the tradition of the Milanese School of Architecture, which opened in 1865 as the section for civil architects of the Royal High Technical Institute of Milan, and combined the artistic culture of the Brera Academy with the technical scientific aptitude of the Royal Institute. The Polytechnic tradition, the rich heritage of the masters, and the strong roots in the Milanese and international context form the basis on which the School of Architecture, Urban Planning, and Construction Engineering paved the way of its renewal. The school's cultural and educational project pursues the primary objective of training graduates competent in the specific field of design and construction, capable of dealing responsibly with the problem that reality poses at various levels and on different themes, from buildings to internal spaces, from the city to the region, landscape, and cultural heritage. Secondly, it aims to nurture the centrality of the project understood in its entirety as a synthesis of multiple areas of expertise and its relationship between this practice and the founding principles of polytechnical culture. The objective is to train graduates capable of bringing unity to the various disciplines who responsibly take part in the project for the transformation of the physical environment. Thirdly, our project aims to revitalize the school as a place for the production and transfer of knowledge, in line with the cultural advancement development role that belong to university, as point of reference for a process of deep change, which requires important contributions, both in terms of defining a new professional roles and in terms of innovative processes capable of restoring competitiveness while also marking a turning point for the quality of the future habitat. The cultural project of the School of Architecture, Urban Planning, Construction Engineering has the ambition unique in our country to integrate areas of training that traditionally fall within the separate fields of architecture, urban planning, landscape, and construction engineering. It was a reform project developed with a context which, in terms of knowledge, was beginning to understand the centrality of environmental sustainability and digitization, already widely practiced elsewhere, while the labor market in the construction and public administration sectors was suffering a widespread, profound, and prolonged crisis, and the relative training opportunities was experiencing a progressive decline in terms of attractiveness of what this sector, the natural employment opportunities for graduates of high school, could offer. In that context, we were able to build a visionary project deeply rooted in the polytechnic culture, based on the pursuit a careful balance between technical and cultural dimensions of design practice and the processes of transforming the built environment, in which the different working traditions of the School of Architecture, the School of Building Engineering, have found ground for useful comparison and collaboration. The school today offers to the students the bachelor programs, the programs in the small circle in the slide, one for each main field of knowledge: architecture, urban planning and building engineering, and we offer also 11 different master programs. The programs put on the large circle in the slide. We also offer a master program of 5 years for an hybrid profile between architecture and engineering. You can see in the slide the cosmography of the educational offer of our school. Today, by confirming the strength of the cultural project, the surrounding conditions allow us to look with renewed optimism to the usefulness of our training, whilst also endeavoring to proactively adapt to the challenges that must to be faced. Training in the field of construction is now called upon to deal with a reference scenario in which certain imperatives, precisely in the context of the transformation processes of the built environment, take on a decisive importance: mitigation anthropic impacts on the planet, adapting to contexts strongly affected by climate change, and digitization. These are imperatives that have long been present on political agendas at all levels, but which today, when action capable of producing effective responses are urgently required, are leading to a general revival of the sector and a widespread demand for skills that have long been neglected. Ecological transition and digitization are therefore the starting point for defining the school's cultural and educational project, where these issues require very specific technical expertise and the continuous updating of tools that are not always at the core of university training courses. At the same time, in the transformation processes of the built environment, those medium and large design and management structures able to offer clients a wide range of skills that are appropriate for the complexity and growing size of operations are particularly competitive. With these structures, the required skills and abilities are different from those acquired through traditional teaching, and great effort must be made to update these, not much nor only in the disciplinary design of the student programs, but also and above all in the content and teaching methods of each course. With regard to ecological transition, an attitude that frees the discussion of environmental sustainability from the ambiguity and indeterminacy that has characterized it thus far, it is necessary. The Milan School of Architecture was a forerunner in terms of introducing environmental issues in teaching with its establishment of the degree program in environmental architecture in 2001. This focus was promptly taken up in the Architecture, Urban Planning, Construction, and Engineering Schools Funding Cultural Educational Project, and now must be further strengthened as a defining element of our student educational experience. It is therefore necessary to return to this topic and clarify it with the aim of training students capable of addressing environmental sustainability from a broad perspective, while also understanding the social and economic dimension, using innovative techniques and tools, and managing appropriate metrics to ensure the effectiveness of the proposed solutions. In terms of digitization, we need to be aware of the specific nature of the transformation taking place in our area. The built environment is a very special, complex, and multifaceted kind of artifact. It is the product of cultural stratification and the barrier of an extraordinary physicality aimed at creating habitats capable of meeting the physical and other needs of those who live there. The digital hybridization of the physicality of the built environment and the related transformation processes cannot therefore be geared toward a simple virtualization and dematerialization of things, space, and organizational structure, but rather must be aimed at redesigning and enhancing reality in order to give it characteristics that better respond to the specific needs of all those concerned. The issue of digitization must be addressed by going beyond the simple enhancement of software skills and the use of data by setting the coordinates for a cultural change. The vision, by our point of view, is clear. Perhaps it has been for some time. Now is the time to pursue it with exhaustiveness and clarity, where design is considered the center of gravity of the entire training course. Design understood as a piece of confrontation between the sense of possibility and the sense of reality. Design that, against the dictatorship of the present, is able to place an idea of the future at the center of its theoretical reflection and practical action. Design capable of focusing on the ends, increasingly attached to the condition of necessity and inevitability, and not just on the means. Design based on knowledge and technical expertise, but at the same time on cultural awareness, understood as the ability to place design work in a specific context of social, economic, and productive reference. Design that, in space of the increasingly marked tendency towards specialization, is able to act within a broad perspective and with a critical evaluation with the pressing needs of society, economic interference, and the reasons behind production. Finally, I have to express once again my congratulations on this significant achievement of the College of Architecture and Urban Planning. 70 years are a long time. I am sure that in the coming years, we will be able to consolidate and expand the project that links the College of Architecture and Urban Planning at Tongji University and the School of Architecture, Urban Planning, Construction Engineering at Politecnico di Milano. Thank you to everybody.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Oli. Thank you. Just outlined our partnership and then really let us know the focus in the future of your school, especially in the how we deal with ecological footprint and impact on the planet under the climate change. And also another approach is digitalization. I do believe that the two approaches are both challenges and opportunities for us as architects, planners, and landscape architects. We do need to rethink about how we educate our students to facing those two new trends. And thank you so very much. And it would be great to discuss more with you about the curriculum and also the teaching methods in details if we have time. But right now, I would like to invite Professor Minghao Zhou, who has a really long relationship with Poly.me, and I guess he wanna express his welcome and also I guess some interesting comment.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Lan. And thank you, Campioli, for your wonderful speech. I got a lot of information, and you have given us a very clear framework on the Polytechnic's teaching method, teaching pattern. I get a lot of things, and as Professor Wang Lan has mentioned, I'm actually for the past 10 years the director from Tongji side of the double degree program between Tongji University and the Politecnico di Milano, and I'm so lucky that I program growing from the architecture to urban planning, and then finally also including the landscape architecture. And I believe our program is very popular in Tongji University, especially before the COVID-19 pandemic, because sometimes we have to make a request to our partner, Professor Luca, to give Tongji University more seats for our students. I believe this popularity is not just because our very active promotion and propaganda, but also the successful and attractive teaching or pedagogy system built up by Politecnico di Milano. I think our audience has already got this information from your speech on the advanced idea of Poly.me's teaching and very specific style. I think you have already continued the good tradition of Poly.me, but do not fear about the challenge and the innovation as well. I have read something very incredible in your presentation about the integration and the balance in the teaching system, and how you update your teaching method and content to react to the actively to the challenge, like the climate change and the digitalization. And I have actually I have a question. Because affected by the real estate crisis and the pandemic issue, the Chinese architecture design and the urban planning industry and the profession, I think, is actually going into a little valley comparing with the prosperity for the past decades. So this is a very subtle moment for us. On the one side, many people think that the golden age of Chinese architecture design and urban planning is actually passing away. But on the other side, there is also voice to be heard that this is a very good chance for us to shuffle our cars. The Chinese architecture and the urban planners, now they can calm down and slow down. They will have new chance to rethink and reflect the future of Chinese architecture and urban development. So under such kind of circumstances, I think our architecture and urban planning education is facing up with a new challenge. Must we transit our teaching pattern or teaching model to which direction? This is a very critical question. I think historically, the European modernization and urbanization actually was earlier than China. I believe you have experienced the similar situation. So what's your, do you have any good suggestion, good opinion you can offer to the Chinese colleagues like myself, so can keep us safely passing through this little crisis? Thank you.
Thank you for the appreciation of our cooperation. Luca Fabris did in the past years a great work with you, promoting the relationship between our school and your. And I think that in the near future we have new and more significant opportunity of cooperation. You put on the floor a great question. Of course, I have no suggestion to you about your question. I think that the situation of our sector are very different in different countries. In this year, also in this pandemic period in Italy, we have a period of expansion of the role of architects and urban planner, because we have some form of financing project by the government to sustain the market. And so we had an explosion about the activity of our architects. Probably the future will not be so happy. I think that our attempt could be to concentrate our attention to all the skills and the abilities that regards the intervention of the built environment, process of requalification, of refurbishment of the built environment will be, especially in Italy, the topic that will engage our architects and our the future. I think that in our schools we have a great opportunity that is an opportunity, a specific opportunity in respect of other schools in Italy, but also and abroad, and is the opportunity to put together the competencies traditionally fallen in the field of architecture and urban planning and landscape with the competencies of construction engineers. It was an attempt we are carrying on from 2016, and that I think that in this attempt will guarantee us a possibility to build a new profile of architects. Architects with a strong awareness on the cultural point of view. This is a strong aspect of the education of our architects, but architects with a strong background on the technical disciplines and the ability to go in deep in the design activity, also on the technical aspects.
Thank you so much for your answer, and I hope that in the very future we can meet in Milan or Shanghai soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you, Dean Campioli. Actually, I'm thinking we have talked about balance between culture and the technology, and also just because you are from the technical side, is there any experience you want to share with us when you conduct research or teaching from your side to more culture side? Is there any experience to share?
We try to combine the cultural awareness and the technical deepening of the disciplines in all our courses. Of course, is a strong effort we are carrying out, and I think that the results of this experience will be the education of our students. We hope that our attempt will give to our students the capability to develop with the technical expertise, but also with a great attention for the cultural aspects of our profession, our activity in the intervention of the built environment.
See. Dean Li.
Yeah, well, I think Polytechnic Milan is one of our key partners that we developed for many years, double degree programs that we do hope that not through the kind of vehicles for double degree students and students programs, but also through joint research. We've co-founded our research lab, Future Cities and Urbanism. So I think after this COVID thing that the doors can be open again. So we will try to see that in the near future, there's a lot of research could happen, between the partners, and so we could look at the different research fields related to in the future architecture and urbanism. I do look forward to that. I do hope that to meet you in person very soon.
Yes, thank you. I sure we'll be able to cooperate strongly that in the past. Thank you very much for your.
Thank you, Dean Campioli. Thank you, Dean Li. I think it's great to hear from you about the approaches and maybe in the future new research and teaching in those two fields. And we would love to collaborate with your side. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lan.
Thanks. Now we have to move to our next speech, and it's from Technical University of Berlin, Faculty of Planning, Building Environment, Dean Angela Millian. He is a professor from urban design and urban development, and now currently director of Department of Urban Planning. And he is also the Dean for Young Scholars and Gender of the School of Building and Environment at TU Berlin. He is also the director of the DAAD Global Centers of Spatial Methods for Urban Sustainability. Her research focus is participatory design, and now is experiencing multifunctional infrastructure development, linking to, for instance, water infrastructure, food production, school and retail design. And I believe we also have a really long history and bright future of our collaboration. And it's our great honor and pleasure to have you here.
I'm taking over. Thank you for the kind introduction. I also brought some slides along to illustrate my short statement. Give me a minute to start it. Okay, I see it. Okay, here we go.
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Wonderful. Yes. First of all, maybe also to give you a little background, we also have a long-standing dual degree program with Tongji University in the field of architecture and urban design. And to me, I'm also right now program director of that dual degree program, is one of the one that works the best out of the few I know within our faculty of planning, building and environment, which is indeed within TU Berlin, the Technische Universität Berlin faculty, the biggest school. We have a number of professions coming together in that school. We had the largest institutes within our faculty are the institutes of civil engineering and architecture. And then we also have the Institute of City and Regional Planning, where I'm based with my urban design department. Although I also have colleagues in the architecture department and the landscape architecture department, which is also part of this institute. We have geoengineering, we have geoinformatics, and we also have sociology with us. And out of that, in the reflection of this theme of the Global Deans Forum, I am basically coming up with the hypothesis that design education in a transformational world is basically or can benefit greatly from cross and transdisciplinary teaching and research. And what I mean by that, I want to highlight just quickly in this presentation. First of all, to me, if you look at this transformation right now, my impression is that one major push is that indeed we are in a situation where we have a number of crises cumulating. So it's not only the post-pandemic time that, or the post-pandemic issues that are planning and design and also architecture is confronted with, it's a number of issues, challenges that are depending on each other. Just to highlight, we had Corona, it's still influencing greatly, at least within the German context, things like rising construction costs because material flows are not back to normal routines, or we have the war of Ukraine, which pushes highly energy costs, at least within the European context, again, especially within the German context, which brings an influx of refugees to Europe, but especially also to Germany and Berlin, taking in, I think now up to 600,000 refugees alone, but putting extra pressure on housing, on any construction that's been done in that field again and again. And it shows pretty much how these challenges are basically not reinforcing each other, but they're entangled, they're somehow cumulating, they're clustering. And it becomes clear they're also depending very much that with whatever we do in design and in architecture and planning is very much also has to respond not only to one issue, it basically has to place itself within this polycrisis, how the term is sometimes used by some scholars, but also in public discussions already, where these different aspects come together and reinforce each other, depend each other, are entangled. And it's, again, it's the connectedness, it's the entanglement of these issues that we believe, a lot more for cross-disciplinary design, research, and teaching, basically bringing knowledge stocks together, skills together to tackle these issues. And this is more than simply transfer. At least we discussed a long time that, yes, we need knowledge transfer in teaching and research, between science, academia, what we do at universities, where we do our scientific findings, methods, we use our methods, technologies, developments, and then we have partners out there in practice that do the application, and there is this nice flow back that we somehow keep on discussing what's needed more. And we come to the conclusion that this knowledge transfer is not enough. What we definitely need in research and education when it comes to design is a co-production of knowledge. So it's not academia, it's not us in the university producing knowledge alone, but also the knowledge from practice needs to be constantly floating back, and this exchange has to be a lot more cultivated than before. But bringing in the different disciplines, I want to highlight that what it means in research and in education by giving some examples out of our faculty right now, which is hosting a collaborative research center since 2018. And you see a huge picture of, I think we are a total of 75 people working together in research in that collaborative research center. It's a total of 15 projects, but we all working basically on one umbrella research question I will talk about in a bit. But what's maybe to highlight all the disciplines here together. We have our sociology as the leading partner in this collaborative center, but also have people from ethnology, we have media and communication science, economy, arts, and architecture and urban planning. And it is, sadly to say, one of the first collaborative research center that's been financed in Germany, where finally architecture and planning is one of the key partners in it as a discipline. And we believe there needs to be a lot more. And the basic assumption of us researching together, and a lot of these colleagues there also teach in the urban design program. Basically, the urban design program together with the dual degree program was somewhat also maybe one small starting thing to actually get together to create this collaborative research center. Again, the leading here was by people from sociology we all are interested in how the world is transforming and what are the transforming forces there. The basic assumption is that the result of globalization, the relationship between people and spaces gets renegotiated, rearranged and transformed in very complex ways. And we start from that assumption that especially the acceleration of communication actions and also spatial processes of mediatization, polycontextualization, and translocalization, terminologies I could hold a whole lecture about, but they just point out again the entanglement, the connectedness of actions, local actions with global processes, the simultaneity of these developments and how it impacts and can be read in spaces and through spatial actions. And this is where we all come together and look at spatial transformation. So here we analyze
Hello? I guess the signal is not good. Hi,
Can you
Angela. Yeah, you may repeat a little bit, like a half minute. Thank you.
Okay, I'm bringing this example of the Collaborative Research Center also because I'm posing the question if we within research also have to kind of like upscale our thinking from single projects to huge collaborations that actually internationally work together on questions that are bringing forward globalization aspects. And I think within this, we already were successful to produce at least one result with the help of our Tongji colleagues. It's an urban design methods and tools book. It contains knowledge. It's a pure co-production product, I would call it, by students of the dual degree program, by students of the master program urban design, by lecturers. We're all discussing what methods are we actually using in urban design and how can they be applied, and basically also co-writing this book together. So the students are also co-authors basically with the help of the lecturers to be publishing this book. And I think this is already a very good example how knowledge can be co-produced. And it was also another aspect, and this is the second example I want to give. It's also a current institution that was mentioned. It's the Global Center of Spatial Methods for Urban Sustainability, founded by the German Exchange Foundation, where basically we are bringing together 48 partners from 8 world regions, mainly from the majority world, including here also Tongji University as one of our partners out of the 47 institutions. And it is aiming, as you can imagine, by the sheer number of institutions that come together here, again, in co-producing and focusing on something that, especially in the fields of engineering and planning and design, we're not talk much about, and that is design methods, for example, research methods. We're more known of using methods, a lot from social science, from other sciences coming, but we never actually, or hardly, I wouldn't say never, but hardly basically write about them, discuss them. I think one of the few books I just showed, and the numbers of books that are out there on methods that are needed in design and urban design and in planning and used are limited to my knowledge, and are not discussed under structural aspects, for example, or aspects like decolonialization of methods. This is a strong discussion that is within social sciences. And in the Global Center, we basically ask, how can we bring this knowledge together from practice, from, again, very different disciplines, again, also from Global South countries. I don't like the terminology Global South, that's why I rather talk about the majority world, in basically co-producing knowledge that is desperately needed in the field of sustainable urban development. And here you see the numbers of disciplines is even greater than before. Architecture and planning is part of it, but a lot more different social sciences, but also other fields of engineering like traffic, transportation planning, water engineering, and so on. So it's a big network, basically bringing together not only very different institutions, but also very different disciplines. And one thing I have not talked much about is the transdisciplinary aspect that is important to us, because we want to not only bridge with this network between disciplines, but also between academia and practice again. And just Again, to highlight, we have different actions where we partner up within our partnering country. Also, Tongji University is part of that. We do conferences, we do practical empirical implementation. I will talk about that in a minute. But we also do combined teaching, talk about teaching methods and so on. Again, in the end, it's all about methods, and we ask what methods do we need in teaching, in practice, how can we co-produce them? And basically leverage also from discussions of other disciplines. And this brings me also to two more last statements in the sense of examples out of this network of this global center. And one are concrete projects that we finance where we do this co-production and testing of spatial methods in projects on the ground with the aim to reflect what knowledge do we have in planning practice, design practice, but also community development practice, and how this practical knowledge enhances, again, methods we can use in research, but are reverse also what do we produce in research, in our analysis, how can it benefit practice, and what methods work best for both of us and increase the understanding. And last but not least, we also finance out of the sheer necessity, because we were also planning on doing co-teaching very intensely, doing workshops, and then the pandemic hit, could not do that. And when we realized what content is out there, we realized again that when it comes to teaching, flexible teaching, massive open online courses are interesting to have a second look. And if you look where massive open online courses are produced right now and broadcasted, it's mainly in the English-speaking world. There's hardly anything accessible beyond that. And this gap we actually used using our wide network, offering basically the chance to develop these massive open online courses. And you see simply by the themes, it's all related. A lot of them are related to design, climate change adaptation, social housing. In Brazil, based climate change adaptation, in Indonesia. We have from Africa, safety in urban spaces. We have child-friendly cities from Peru, Lima, and we're claiming that there is a lot of knowledge out there that we can use very much also in our local design education. By contrasting, by seeing, by learning what works there, maybe also works for us, etc. But basically, this brings me to a last slide. It's an initiative and it fits very well to my colleague from Polytech di Milano. Within the European Union, we are founded to create a European university. It's basically the idea of here exactly 6 universities getting together, trying to make, for our students at least, learning across other universities easier. So basically the idea is at the beginning of the semester, a Berlin students could think, okay, why not take planning theory, not with Mrs. Million at TU Berlin, but do it with my colleague in Polytech di Milano, and it should be very easy to enroll and make it happen, etc. So this is the idea, and I'm talking about an idea because we're still working on it, because there are basically a lot of bureaucratic challenges to solve to make this happen. But what I like about that is also to take it a step further. So if we really could get it work, how could our students, our international students that are with us, also benefit from a system like that, from an education that reaches out and more on a very easy way to content curriculars of other universities. We have a pilot phase right now. Is led actually, the colleagues from Polytech di Milano have the lead here to organize all of us 6 universities. And the program of urban design, again, is one of the pilot programs to make that happen. And like I said, we're still in the development phase. We are not sure if it really at the end is successful, but we're aiming for it. And I think it's still worthwhile already to think of what it actually means for the future in development of design education and international, and taking it beyond and making it accessible also to our international students. And that's all from my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Angela. I would say that I noticed there are 4 clauses in your presentation, like cross practice and research, cross disciplines and cross countries, and also at last cross different universities. Or I would also say not only cross but also connect. And I think those 4 clauses and connections are very important at this stage. And also, I think maybe the technologies and the context provided us sort of the opportunity to promote those connections, even though it's still quite challenging, I think. For instance, how we could really connect research and practice, even though I know there is a word like evidence-based practice, we're always trying to find some evidence to support practice in research. But eventually, sometimes when you get into the field of practice, you would also feel like the evidence from research still like a little bit fragmented, and maybe you cannot put them together naturally. Still something need to do. And also the challenging to really put different scholars in different fields together to talk with each other, especially research. Maybe the practice is better solved. We can let them just provide their ideas to solve a problem. But for research, it seems we always need sort of the framework. So which framework we should base on, which discipline we should be the major basis. That's something I got from your presentation. That's also something I'm thinking about. I definitely believe that those connections are major issues in the future. Even though it's challenging, we still need to do something to make it happen in better way. Thank you, Angela. And then I would like to invite Professor Liu Kan, who has a really long relationship history with TU Berlin, and I believe he also want to say something and maybe a question.
Hello, guten Morgen.
Hello.
Really nice to see you from here. And firstly, I see sorry, my email box blocked for 1 month, so I missed many of your emails. Just refixed this last week, so everything I understand. And I was super exciting for all the sliders you are introducing. This is my interesting, and also I'm sure that we can do more collaboration together, no matter in teaching and practicing and also research. Actually, I know Angela, Professor Liang, more than 10 years. This followed with our Tongji and TU Berlin double degree program, starting from 2006, actually. So this is already 16 years we're working together for that program. And I just checked out one figure. This that in this 16 years, we transferred 181 Chinese students from Shanghai to Berlin, and also from TU Berlin, here are 66 students visiting Shanghai. But I think this is in our college. In the history, this is most top numbers for students getting this kind of transfer exchange for double degree and also for short-term visiting in our based on our education infrastructure and network. So this is also related with what you're interesting, and also related with your introducing the program thinking. I have to say TU Berlin, in my opinion, is one of the leading university also based on the city of Berlin with the thinking for the future in urban design. And because this related with the background of the city, followed with series of reconstruction, refiguration from the past 30 years after the Berlin Wall. And also this is quite related with Shanghai, because Shanghai from 1990 starts a new quick urban development. So a lot of things like new thinking of knowledge could be transferable. So this is very interesting for this kind of idea when we talk about the knowledge transfer urban design thinking. And because every city, like organic system, have its own discipline, but on the other hand, this kind of growing and kind of shrinking phenomena from happening in the global thinking actually could be comparable. So this is different from the knowledge, different from culture, different from the just one-way global thinking, but actually as a kind of transferable knowledge, especially in urban study, I think this is very important. So for that reason, also I think the number that we have tripled the students from Berlin to Shanghai. So at this moment for Shanghai, we got the positive transfer because we are learning from Berlin. This is my thinking, because we have more students willing to go to the Berlin side and coming back to Shanghai. But we are thinking to set up a new balance, but also this based on the professional, practical or market, and based on students, how they select. Also, in another thinking that Professor Milian provide a series of thinking actually, and also a practical and research thinking, like refiguration of space, the aging of university. I have to see Berlin actually giving me a lot of new thinking for this kind of knowledge education infrastructure in city. Like some new project, like Alma did the Alex Springer campus, finished just 2020 in May, Berlin. And the big campus provide a new space for the city. And also I read that like in Schoenberg, this floating university is a very new typology that with a temporary infrastructure that provide people or can educate, get knowledge. In this kind of thinking, Berlin is very far for the future because this kind of high density of university researcher people. And also based on this kind of refiguration of space, the thinking. For that reason, I think it's very interesting. And also Shanghai, we were doing a similar and like a new network of universities. And also we could see that during the pandemic, the past 3 years, a lot of Chinese and also the education try to get the new adaptation to think how we can get knowledge in future. Like in the morning, I talked with my students online because University Tongji doing online teaching, distant teaching today. I said, if we get one teacher for 10 students today, maybe the new technology and the new ways when we share the space can provide one student with 10 teachers to provide you different knowledge in one class. Maybe different, but actually from your alien thinking of university, you are already I'm very excited for that. Might be some interesting happening for us. And also I must say, because I do my PhD started for cultural transfer in architecture by the profession of the international practice in Asian city and in Shanghai. So we get a lot of different culture profession by architects, by researchers to join with the city. So in this way, Shanghai and Berlin is comparable as a metropolis with the knowledge. My question is very much simple. Maybe just Professor Miliang, you can short reply. As a kind of transfer by knowledge, especially in urban design, there are some positive transfer, but also in some time we could see like the globalization, some negative transfer. So in your knowledge or in your opinion, in urban design or as a kind of urban design knowledge, which is the most significant knowledge valuable can be transferred or not transferred?
Oh, that is a tough question to be answered very short, I have to say. First of all, I mean, we have to acknowledge that there is knowledge coming from all different, from very different sides. And we have very local knowledge that we can leverage from, and we have knowledge that we can gain from other disciplines. We have knowledge that we can gain, sometimes gain by age, and sometimes like being there for quite some time, and sometimes it's knowledge that is quite new. I'm basically made it a rule to always be open, to be critical, to look for that knowledge, to also acknowledge if I don't know. And I work a lot with young people. It was said at the beginning, participatory design. Right now we're doing participatory research with young people. We're developing an app with them. They do have so much knowledge on how to navigate the digital world. They way before us. So when we talk about digital natives, they are natives, and they know a lot more. And I think it's always good to have a co-production like mentality in kind of like not like keep an eye open of people that actually do have a lot of knowledge you can take into your research and you can take into your practice, you can into your design. So so this is something I get taught all the time when I do participatory research or do participatory design with young people, that in certain areas for sure they have a lot more knowledge than us, but I also see how they grow by the knowledge they're gaining in being with us, working with us, picking up vocabulary by us, and in the end giving presentations and myself in some of the things they're saying, the vocabulary they're saying. So it's basically not only them giving us knowledge, but also they have immense learning they're going through. And I think if you create such an atmosphere where you as lecturers can learn, but in the end also students learn, in this sense, I mean, it's not even a class I'm talking about. It's a process, it's a research process. And I see people growing in knowledge. This is tremendously. So this is maybe a very short answer to a very complex question you're asking.
Yeah, that's very important. Actually, you give me a reminder that this is the years for 50 years of Venturi when he announced learning from Las Vegas. And I learned during the learning from Las Vegas, Venturi also mentioned a lot of thinking that this is a mutual learn, teacher learning from the students' practice, and also students learning from this kind of training, and this learning from the both sides. So thank you very much for your
You're welcome.
For the presentation. And my last word is we were really waiting for visiting again, and also welcome you to come back Shanghai.
Hopefully soon. Bye-bye.
Yes, I think we do have plan to visit to Berlin sometime in May, hopefully. And I have been there like a couple of times. I really enjoyed the atmosphere there, like academic research, seminars, all those things. I do believe that next year we could meet offline. Even though it might be my first time to meet you, but I guess I definitely could learn a lot from you, especially how we could put multiple disciplinary together. I'm right now doing research in healthy cities, and you know this. I have to invite professors from medicine, like doctors, and also learn something like what you mentioned, the spatial analytical methods from geography. I think those multi disciplines could really enrich the research. The only challenge for me is, as I already mentioned to you, how to integrate them together, because sometimes you talk different terminologies and methods are also quite different. I'm wondering if the spatial analytical methods, how would you explain that to the different disciplines? Like we are more familiar with that, but maybe some other, scholars from different disciplines are not very familiar with how their knowledge could really impact the space. It would be great if you share maybe one or two little stories. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, this is indeed something that that brings forward a lot of discussion if you do this true interdisciplinary research. I also have a research project going on with some colleagues from Charité, which is the medical school here in Berlin, and on neurourbanism, on the impact of density on people. And we have people really from very different, from psychology, but also from and us from planning and architecture, yes, it's basically, I think the first step is to make them aware that some of the analysis they do have a spatial component to it, because sometimes they think, no, I'm not researching on space with space and all, but when you start discussing with them and they see the relation, then they understand, oh yes, my research has to do with space and has to do with something that is incorporating action here and influencing action. So we did, especially in the CRC, we did very intense discussion on methods and do they have a spatial component to it or not? Do they have a spatial focus on it or not? And published also a book with methods. A lot of qualitative methods were here on focus. If you do research with people from medical science, sooner or later you have a lot of quantitative data. And that is a challenge again we are in a discussion here right now to find actually a common sense of what is a joint quantitative spatial method aspects we want to target together. And last but not least, I think these very interdisciplinary research projects, they need time. You have to find a common language. It just needs time. And that needs a lot of misunderstanding in between to kind of like really find out, oh, we are talking about the same thing, but you are based on that framework, you are based on this framework or this theory, and you call it like this and I call it like that. But once you figured it out, it's very benefiting, because you're basically bringing together knowledge fields that have been in parallel and suddenly they're intersecting. And again, this is where basically knowledge gain happens. So I have to tell you, just be patient. It needs time and it needs a lot of talking and a lot of misunderstanding in between. And and also you have to get together with people who are really interesting in sorting it out, in kind of like making yourself understand to another discipline. So this is also something I have learned, that like these networks, these joint interdisciplinary research projects only work if the people are really dedicated in it and interested in understanding architectural thinking, understanding design thinking, understanding the thinking of planners, and so on. In our reverse, it's the same thing. Yeah, this is maybe one question.
Thank you so much, Angela. I do believe that yeah, we will keep trying, and we should believe that this is a good approach. And actually, maybe in at this point and this moment, this is will really bring the innovation to our disciplines. We should keep going on. And it would be great to share experience with you later in person, maybe drinking coffee at Berlin, and really looking forward to it. Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you soon. Thank you, Professor Liu, for your comment and question. Great. Well, now I may invite Professor Akihito Ozaki. Professor
Yes.
Ozaki.
Yes.
I may introduce you briefly, and then the floor is yours. And then later we have a conversation. I will invite Professor Zhang Li. You may familiar with. We will. Yeah, great. Thank you. Professor Akihito Ozaki is the former dean of Department of Architecture and Urban Design of Human Environment Studies at Kyushu University, Japan. He received his PhD quite early in the late 90s, and he has received many awards since the beginning of his career. And I think one of them is quite outstanding. Prize of Architectural Institute of Japan, and many grants to support for scientific research. The title of his speech today is Cooperative Education for Fostering Human Resources to Lead Sustainable Development of Urban and Architectural Environment. Thank you, Professor. The floor is yours.
Thank you. I'll share. Okay. Thank you for kind introduction. I'm Akihito Ozaki from Kyushu University. On behalf of Kyushu University and the faculty members of Human Environment Studies at Kyushu University, I'd like to congratulate you on the 150th anniversary of the founding to Itonji University and on the 70th anniversary of your College of Architecture and Urban Planning. I appreciate.
Excuse me, Professor Ozaki, you may play the presentation. Now it's not the full screen.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Here you go. Okay.
Yes, perfect.
Yes.
Thank you.
I appreciate for inviting me to the Global Dean's Forum and giving me the opportunity to give the keynote speech. The title of the keynote speech is Cooperative Education for Fostering Human Resources to Lead Sustainable Development of Urban and Architectural Environment. The rapid expansion of human activities has brought negative impact on a global scale, such as increased energy consumption, increased carbon dioxide concentration, global warming, and air pollution. Today's society is required to respond appropriately to these problems and build a sustainable and self-sustaining development. In particular, the energy supply and demand system that forms social infrastructure is facing a major turning point. In addition, changes in the social structure due to the declining birth rate and aging population pose challenges to urban structures and administrative service. On the other hand, today's advance in technology and science are promoting the fusion of cyberspace and physical space, and are about to fundamentally change the way we live there. I'd like to think about urban and architectural initiatives for a better future. This time, I'll talk about the following points regarding sustainable circulation society of people, things, and information. 1. Conception of future cities and architecture. 2. International cooperative education for fostering human resources. 3. Design education using art and technologies. In sustainable circulation society of people, things, and information, we will be able to efficiently manage and operate social and life infrastructure service by utilizing advanced technologies of the information society, such as the Internet of Things. It is possible to create new cities that aims to improve the quality of life of people and continue economic development while considering the environment. Here, I'm talking about compact city, smart city, and digital transformation. As you know, a compact city is a compact urban form in which various urban functions such as administration, commerce, and housing are concentrated in the center of the city. By bringing urban functions within walking or cycling distance, we will create local communities, finally respond to an aging society with a low birth rate, and protect the natural environment and ecosystems. The aim is suppress urban suburbanization and sprawl, keep the scale small, and revitalize the community, and create a livable city by regarding the walking range as a living area. We will create a city that is highly convenient for everyone by creating an easily accessible multipurpose area centered on public transportation. It will harmonize with the natural environment and ecosystems and construct a place for people-centered community activities and provide efficient administrative service. Compact cities are primarily aimed at improving quality of life and administrative service. Next, cities aim to efficiently manage, operate social infrastructures such as energy, transportation, and administrative services. By utilizing advanced technologies such as information and communication technology and artificial intelligence, as well as big data such as the flow of people, consumption trends, and the usage of land and facilities, it realize a better life for residents while considering the environment. The concentration of population in urban area is the cause of serious environmental problems such as air pollution and heat island and social problems such as traffic jam. Energy consumption in cities account for 60% to 70% of greenhouse gas emissions. So efficient energy management in urban area is an urgent need for a low carbon society. Smart city will efficiently develop, manage, and operate social and life infrastructure service, improve people's quality of life by considering the environment, and achieve sustainable economic development. So smart city are primarily aimed at improving energy and environmental policy. This is a schematic diagram of efficient energy use in the next generation smart cities in the IoT era. The smart cities are expected to energy conservation, distributed energy resources, use of renewable energy, energy management system, such as energy sharing, demand response, smart grid. This is a schematic diagram of traffic control with AI and big data. The smart cities are also expected to alleviation of traffic jam and smooth movement using public transportation by real-time information such as weather, traffic, and route guidance. In other words, a smart city can be described as a connected city where people, things, and information are connected via the internet. This figure shows the urban city that Toyota is planning to develop in Susano City, Shizuoka, Japan. In Japan, the public and private sectors are cooperating to plan smart cities in various places. Next, digital transformation aims to realize the human-centered society that achieves both economic development and the resolution of social issues through a highly integrated system of cyberspace and physical space. We call the next generation society in which cyberspace and physical space are used as Society 5. In Society 5, artificial intelligence is expected to replace and support the work that humans have been doing. In Society 5, IoT will connect all people and things, share various knowledge and information, and create unprecedented new value. Society 5 is aimed at human-centered society by using DX to optimize the entire social system. As an example, this figure shows an image of disaster prevention, rescue, and support by AI. Society 5 will provide a safe living environment and rapid emergency response. Compact city, smart city, and Society 5 can be considered sustainable circulation society, connected all of people, things, and information. I believe that sustainable circulation society of people, things, and information will be feasible in the near future, but it will require new technologies. Therefore, we also need human resources with that. So next, I'd like to explain about the Campus Asia program, an international cooperative education for fostering human resources conducted by Kyushu University, Tonjin University, and Busan National University. This is a configuration diagram of Campus Asia program, cooperative educational program for fostering human resources to lead sustainable development of recycle-based zero-emission urban and architecture environment in Asia. As a separate organization from this program, we have established the International Alliance for Sustainable Urbanization and Regeneration. This program is implemented with the cooperation of industry, government, and academia organizations participating in IASUR. In this program, the three universities will collaborate on undergraduate, master, and doctoral education through double degree program and joint degree program. In the future, we'd like to spread this program to other universities in ASEAN and the world. The future of this program is to think about solving international urban environment issue through global habitat engineering education and connect it to innovative technologies for future society. Research and development based on theory and practice will lead to the implementation of smart city and bring about the next global innovation. This schematic diagram shows the flow of international collaborative education, research and development, analysis, design, implementation, evaluation related to cities and architecture. The purpose is to cultivate urban and architectural specialists with comprehensive perspective, practical skill, and international capabilities. However, because it is difficult to achieve all goals with conventional education program, Kyushu University has established a Center for Urban and Architecture Built Environment Center with Art and Technology, so-called BCAT, to provide additional education. BCAT is an institution that practices research and education, industry, academia collaboration, and social implementation, and mainly aims at environmental design of urban and architecture for a decarbonized society. This slide shows what we are currently doing at BCAT. I will omit the detail, but we are aiming to realize a decarbonized society based on theory and practice. Research and development BCAT targets real cities. In Japan, 3D model of city using electronic data, so-called megabus, is being promoted. So all of this will be done based on electronic data. These figures show the result of computer simulation of urban microclimate, thermal environment, and airflow of buildings, and so on. Once the location and the design specifications of buildings have been determined, simulations are conducted, and the results are feedback to the design. I will introduce houses, civic hall, and urban planning that we have designed so far. Zero energy housing are required for newly built houses in Japan. However, there are many different ways, and it is up to the designer. In this house, direct gain, double skin, plumb wall, air circulation system, and solar hot water system were adapted to reduce the heating load. In this project, 6 houses were constructed all over Japan. The goal is to save 50% of energy compared to general legal energy saving standards. The problem is whether the target energy saving has been achieved. Designs of these houses reflect the result of computer simulations. We also measured the energy consumption for each application with the aim of confirming the accuracy of the simulation. As a result, it was confirmed that the design value and the measured value were almost the same in all regions, and that more than 50% energy saving were achieved. This building is a civic hall with concert hall, library, study room, and multi-purpose room. Citizens are free to use. This building is extremely large, and the interior space consists of a large atrium. The problem with this building is how to air condition it with low energy consumption. Therefore, we installed heating and cooling equipment with radiant panels so that the interior space would be comfortable even when the air temperature was set slightly lower in winter and slightly higher in summer. As a result, we are able to maintain a comfortable indoor summer environment and achieve 25% energy savings. Then global warming is a common problem all over the world. This figure shows the temperature rise in Hadano City over the past 50 years. Since there is high possibilities that the temperature will continue to rise in the future, we have considered urban planning that will mitigate the temperature rise over the next 20 years. This predicts the energy consumption of a city based on GIS data and compares the relationship with the actual temperature. It can be seen that the temperature rise as the energy consumption density and building density increase. On the other hand, the higher the green coverage, the lower the temperature. Therefore, we create a city plan to control the temperature rise in the next 20 years. The details, but I'm proposing global warming countermeasures in consideration of environmental factors such as declining population, changes in land use, improvement in building performance, building energy consumption, and underground temperature. It is hoped that Compact City, Smart City, and Society 5 will actually achieve a sustainable circulation society of people, things, and information that prevents global warming. The future is entrusted to human beings, so I would like to create cities and architecture that will create a better environment and foster the human resources who will be responsible for this. This concludes my presentation. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Professor Ozaki. It's a really great presentation. Give us the sort of the approaches, the focus of university and Japan, and also show us some programs and research center going on. And at last, you also give us some detailed technologies in advance. Thank you very much for your presentation. I really enjoyed it. And I'm thinking that compact city, smart city, I really like has some sort of Asian background. And I think Japan really, based on their advanced technology, implement in a very good way. And I also really appreciate that you mentioned about Campus Asia. I do believe that our students and professors involved and received obtained benefit from it. And so this is why we invite Professor Zhang Li, who is involved in this Campus Asia program for a really long time. And Professor Zhang.
Hi, Professor Zaki.
Hi, nice to see you.
Yeah, it's very nice to see you here. Yeah, I think we have so long time not to meet offline. Yeah. For me, I think from our computation program for interchange students and visiting students, yeah, I learned much from this activity. Also, I set up a East Asian Research Network for East Asian Rural Studies, and this year I published four books on this topic. Yeah, so I say many thanks on this program. Yeah. In this new era after epidemic, I think have you considered the new teaching method on online sharing teaching for our many universities? Because for Tongji University, for our architecture and urban planning department or college, we have not, I think in this small part, enough. We have not two students, but we have to set up many English courses for them. Yeah. So is there a possibility for your university, our university, and the other universities today? Could we consider to design sharing international courses in design field? Do you have any idea? I think in this field, it doesn't related to ideology. I think so. Yeah, I want to hear of your ideas.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I introduced the detail of our doing education, just using a digital transformation. So everything is done by electronic data. So if we can share such a data from overseas university, we'll be able to share the knowledge and education skills by using such a DX technologies. So we are considering about the DX for the to using a DX for design. So that means we don't need the handwork to make a design. Just we need a personal computer and internet. That environment can be share all of the thing, knowledge and information. So that's one of the for the education, I think.
Even if we could design the sharing courses online, but for me, I like the offline course very much. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, I do believe maybe in the future those two ways will parallelly involved in our teaching. And maybe we can definitely develop some better technology to support the new way of teaching. And thank you very much, Professor Ozaki, and hope we could see you offline, as Professor Zhang mentioned, very soon. And we do contribute compact and smart cities development for Asian cities together.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
See you soon.
See you.
See you
Thank
soon.
you. Okay, now I would like to invite the rector, University of Teacher of Venice, IUAV, and Rector Benno Arbreter. He is Professor of Architecture and Urban Design. He is also not only the rector, but also the director of the PhD school. And his research is focusing on urban issues for the building for peace, research developed by Ben, and he has also been a consultant for UN organization. I think his main field is sustainability and urban heritage. He has received many architectural prizes and international competition. And well, actually, Tongji has a really long and good relationship with IUAV. Even me, myself, I was funded by the Erasmus and scholarship and stayed in Venice for 3 months. And also, I saw Margarita, and she gave us a really big help in many ways. And it's our great pleasure and honor to invite you to our second Dean's Forum. And now the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll try to share my presentation. This one. Okay, can you see the presentation? It works?
Not yet. Did you click share screen on the button?
Yeah.
And then you choose your presentation file.
I'm sharing. I try again. Oh, yeah, okay.
Yes, wait.
Okay, that's you know, this is Venice, and we are located in UAV University is located here in Venice. Venice is a very strange and unique city, and UAV University is one of the oldest university here in Italy, and is a special university because we are totally focused on project, and so we manage architecture, planning, design, but also fashion and arts in general. And here we have a long history, 100 years. We established in 1926. And here are some of the famous professors in our university. You can see Manfredo Tafuri, Giancarlo De Carlo, Carlo Scarpa, Aldo Rossi, Bernardo Sacchi, Leonardo Benevo, and so on. And we have, during 100 years, many guests, many professor guests, and like Frank Lloyd Wright, Le Corbusier, or Alvaro Siza, or Luis Kahn, and so on. And so this is UL in numbers. We have 4,500 students that works on this kind of topics on project. But actually, all university, we are working more. This is the big change of our education we are working on. We are working more on process than that on projects. And so what means? The better, I think, I give you one example that we are working on a process of planning. We are design a process of planning. It is a process of reconstruction we are working on in Syria and probably next also in Ukraine. You know that we are in the Mediterranean, and actually there are many problems in our area. That is the demographic development, and also increasing water scarcity. And you know that there are many problems in this area due to the climate change. There are large-scale migration. There are from the south to the north of the sea. There are a big global energetic transformation also here, and the changing, also the war now has changing all this geography. And the conflict, there are many conflicts and violence in the middle of this system that grows more and more. And now we are working on trying to understand how we can stop the conflict recurrence. And we know that there is a problem, a real problem of thinking, this recurrence. And for first, we have studied how during the last century, this problem were faced and so on. During World War II, there were some kinds of reconstruction and to face the problems of reconstruction. And we have studied more than 100 towns and a system of reconstruction to understand how to face with the new problems. And so we have our final goal is that we have to change completely the tradition of post-World War II reconstruction that actually all the international agencies are working on. And so the problem is very big, but is a problem of changing the process of planning and of reconstruction. And so we need a new strategy. We call this strategy Reconstruct. And this strategy will change the normal approach that is actually current, that is a top-down approach. That means large loans, large companies, and no participation of people. And the other possibility is a bottom-up strategy that starts from small loans to many people, and the gradual credit, access to the gradual credit becomes an instrument of regeneration, and I think a trigger of continuous changing of the city. And so the problem of top-down strategy is that there is very few local content, and in bottom-up, on the contrary, in the bottom-up strategy, there are a lot of local content. And the normal strategy, the Western normal strategy, actually is based on vertical layers, and so you have to reconstruct schools, streets, and so on. And our proposal and our strategy is a bottom-up approach by autonomous cells that is completely different. And autonomous cells strategy has many advantages: coordination, first of all, and then control that is more easier to control all the transformation of the city. Also, emulation, that means that the solution are replicable to other cells and other neighbors. And also scalability, that means that is applicable not only with a little neighborhood, but also to the buildings, to the city, to territories, to regions. Has a secure time frame because it's easy to understand the start and the end of the construction of one cells. Has a lot of involvement of local communities in this process, and also will grow the place attachment. That means the values of the place, and also it is possible to have community design and collaborative design with no fixed schemes. And so, obviously, sustainability in this process, the old paradigm is the top-down paradigm, has high energy, big infrastructures, and so on. And reconstruction, there are autonomous cells, and so off-grid cells have no low energy, small infrastructures, and also the possibility to work in different ways, one cells to other cells. And we have made some measuration on this, the old paradigm, the top-down paradigm, and the new paradigm. And here are all the gains and all the possibilities of this new strategy. And also there is the possibility that in a very short time to make and leap forward also in technology, in possibilities of these in the reconstruction countries. And so there is the possibility to grow up in a very short time. And this strategy, as you can see, the strategy obviously has many fixed points by sustainability in city, in country, in society, and from house to the big growing scale, from the house to the neighborhood, and from the neighborhood to the district. You can see the different possibilities. This project was made for Syria, for reconstruction of Syria, we made for World Bank. And you can see from district to the cell, and from the cell to the city, and from the city to the region or the bioregion. And so you can see that the strategy has the characteristic of scalability, and it's possible to grow, and it's possible to work. It works in every scale, and this is the regional scale. So the design of reconstruction works on an evolutionary mechanism, and the possibility to have a system, a DNA system of growing. This is made by computers that can design different kind of cities, and so there is here there is no a project, but there is a process, there is a system of growing, and we are working on planning the DNA of this working that works for different cities and has different results also. And this is, you can see here, there is a city, the destruction of this city, and the triggers that works and starts reconstruction, starting from public spaces, from streets, changing the rule of the streets, and so triggering a process of reconstruction and a completely different shape of the city. And so we can see the current concept has 90% of space for cars. In the future, we have no space for cars. And also in this new public space, we can have many tools of sustainability, like water and energy, food, cooling, and so on. And there is a lot of space. And so this process is a process of circularity, but we can have this process in every landscape, from the sea to the other kind of landscape. This is a section valley, and with different possibilities, also in the hills, in inland of a country. We can have a small greenhouse and so work on agriculture. And we made all in these different kinds. We made business plans, different business plans and possibility. This is the possibility in a town reconstruction here in a town center, in a city center, for example, also in a historical city center, reconstruction with the urban cells, and also in the open space, also in the desert, working on energy, especially reconstructing all the energy infrastructures. And so this kind of possibility, I think, that is our task. That is to change our mind and work not on projects that are in the bottom of a pipeline of decision, but work on a process in the start of decisions. Thank you. I tried to share, interrupt this, the sharing of the, okay.
Thank you so much, Rector Albert. Thank you for your fascinating slides, and also show us the design methods could cross different scales, and how we could really include different considerations in the proposal to achieve sustainability. I really enjoyed the slides, and it's great. Thank you so much. And just as I mentioned, IUAV and Tongji has a really long and good partnership, and we have many exchange students and scholars. And Professor Yin Jie, who is the director of the double degree program for the Department of Urban Planning. And I would like to invite him to give comment with maybe 1 or 2 questions, and then I will jump in to ask you some questions. Thank you, Professor Yin.
Thank you so much, Professor Wang, and hi, Professor Albrecht. Thank you so much for your wonderful presentation. My name is Jie Ying. I'm an assistant professor of urban planning, and has the privilege to serve as the coordinator of the Tongji and IUAV dual master program. I was wondering whether maybe we could expand our collaborations from the master level to the PhD level in the near future. I think 1 year maybe not enough for our student to digest the culture and the beauty of Venice. I believe the doctoral student will appreciate the opportunity to have supervisors and research resources from both our university. I would like to hear your thoughts on that. And you mentioned that the process is very important. Could not be more. So I think sometimes we need new perspectives from other disciplines to rethink our planning and design process. So I personally was trained as an urban planner in China at Tongji, and public health from in the United States. And doing this interdisciplinary research and teaching planning and environmental health. And I would like to hear your thoughts and advice on the international cross-disciplinary collaboration of our two universities. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, sure. We have a PhD school, and you are very welcome. And we want to share our experience and to work together in PhD studies. And for us, will be a pleasure. And you are very welcome. And so also Margherita Turbani and Chiara Tosi that are in charge of the relation with Tongji. They will be very effective to start the collaboration also in the PhD programs. And yes, we are trying to work on a new perspective. You know, Italy is a small country. We don't have oil, we don't have diamonds, we don't have gold. So we need to invest all our possibility in our mind and to change our mind very, very quickly, and it's also to change all the tools of the project. And we think we have big problems also, you know, very well Venice. And so, for example, Venice has many problems, many global problems are here in a very, very small place. And so we are testing and we are trying to introduce new strategies of planning and new strategies of process of planning, also here in our city, to test the possibility to have new tools for the project. This is our task. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, dear Rector, I want to ask some questions. I think, you know, I really appreciate your presentation. You are showing us a comprehensive mapping of, you know, the different aspects of your research, and each aspect there are different topics of you know, it's a quite comprehensive roadmap for research about architecture and urbanism. Thank you for sharing with us this. I would like to ask you a question, because this morning I did a presentation on our research. One of the major research field is actually the research about the city itself, the study on the urbanism and architectural history and tradition and typology of Shanghai, and also the future possibilities and, you know, and the restraints that Shanghai is facing. So I think, you know, the kind of a relationship between the local knowledge and also the universal and global kind of a common discourses, that how do you think, take Venice as a example, how the research about the local knowledge about the city, Venice and its architecture, the city thing, because could contribute to global discourse or universal discourses in the field of architecture and urban planning. A couple of years ago, I curated the Shenzhen Biennale. I think Venice participating, and they show us a wonderful exhibition on Venice and how you plan to build a dam to protect the city from being flooded for the increasing kind of water level. So this is an amazing project for all of us to think about, and but this is a quite specific Venice problem and issue. But how this could be generate a kind of a relationship or dialogue between the city and also universal discourses in architecture and planning. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for your question. Yes, Venice is a strange city and has a very peculiar characteristic that Venice foresees transformations of the planet. Venice was the first republic here in Europe in 17th century, and for example, was destroyed by modernization, has a problem of climate change with the flood, with the rising of the sea. And yes, we build this here a dam, this big dam that works in a strange way. That is the only one all over the world. We spend here in Italy. We spend a lot of time. Like in China, we spend 25 years for building this dam. We are not so good like in China, but this is the only one all over. And we know there are many cities has the same problem. Strangely, also Asunción in Paraguay, for example, has a problem like that, or Ho Chi Minh City, for example, has a problem like that of flood. And so Venice may be the example of the transformation, of big transformation of the planet. Because it's very small, it's like a laboratory. And so we are a laboratory of over-tourism, for example, of all the problem of over-tourism. We were a laboratory of transformation, of modernization near an historical city, and the problems of modernization, of modern kind of thinking and historical city, and so on. But now we are trying to solve our city, and we are trying to use new tools for the future project. And so, thank you very much for your appreciation.
Thank you, Rector Albert. I think you mentioned that Venice might be sort of an experimental lab to deal with climate change. I think that might be a very, how to say that, cutting edge research happening there. And I do believe Venice has been impacted a lot by the climate change. So any innovation there could benefit to other cities around the world. Thank you. Thank you, Dean Li.
Thank you. We will share our experience. Thank you very much.
Great.
Thank you, Rector.
Thank you. Also, thank Professor Ying Jie. Thanks a lot, Rector. We would love to meet you sometime soon in Shanghai, hopefully soon. Thank you again. Well, now I would like to invite our next speaker, Helen Woolley, head and professor from the Department of Landscape Architecture, the University of Sheffield. Professor Woolley, he studied agricultural and environmental science at the University of Newcastle, and he was founded by Social Science Research Council, awarded to study on the postgraduate course in landscape design, and her research interests lies in people and their everyday use of green and open space, Actually, I met Professor Ulen last time at the forum talking about city. So her research now is focusing a lot on the children's outdoor environment relates to policy, practice, and use. And I also believe that this is a very hot topic today, and also in China. We do hope to create a children-friendly city for the young generation and the next generation for sure, even though it's quite challenging. Let's welcome Professor Uli. Helen, the floor is yours. Yeah, you may turn on your microphone.
Yeah, I'll unmute. I'm going to try and share my screen. Hold on, this might take me a little while, but if I share. Can you see?
We can see like half of it.
Okay, I'm getting there then.
Take your time.
Yeah. Is that okay?
Yes, perfectly. Thank you.
Good, thank you. So it's a great delight to be speaking with some of my colleagues and people whom I almost consider friends now in Shanghai, and to celebrate with you the 70th anniversary of the College of Architecture and Urban Planning. A few years ago, we celebrated the 50th anniversary of our Department of Landscape Architecture and thought we'd done very well, but I'm very impressed that your college has been going and teaching and influencing for longer. I've heard a few of the speakers before, earlier in this session, and it's been really interesting to hear what they have to say. So yes, I am a professor of landscape architecture, children's environments and society, and I'm head of the Department of Landscape Architecture here in Sheffield in the UK, where this morning there's snow and frost on the ground and it's cold. We really know that we're in winter. In bringing to you today my thoughts about design education in a transformational world, I'm going to talk about a theme that we have called Hopeful Greener Futures. So as landscape architects, greening the city and the city being green and being built within it, and how the greenery is used is one very important thing. And what I want to say is that a lot of the speakers have already told challenges that there currently are in the world, challenges that might be relating to population. I think that Professor Million from Berlin talked about a polycrisis, and I think that's a lovely term because that diagram was very clear on the many issues that are affecting countries, and some in different ways. So Venice is affected by sea level changes more than perhaps the UK would be, but many of the things across Europe are very much influenced at the moment by what is happening in Ukraine, as has already been mentioned. But just in case some of you aren't really sure what landscape architecture is, because we find that this is the case, it is about planning, designing and managing spaces, outdoor spaces for nature and for people. So we work at different scales. It might be about planning in a city, it might be leading the layout of a housing area, it might be a park, it might be something as small as a school playground or somebody's garden. So it ranges across scales very, very much, and that's how we teach. We include both urban and rural. I think, if I'm honest, our department is slightly more focused on urban than rural at the moment, but you know, changes in agricultural policy affect our rural areas, and changing in housing policy can do. So this is something that we're very interested in. And we're looking at designing and managing places that meet the needs of diverse communities. And what I want to say with respect to that immediately is that one of the things driving our vision and the future in the department here at the moment is about what we call equality, diversity and inclusion. And that goes down looking at our curriculum and trying to decolonizing it, making sure it's not just UK or European centric, exploring aspects even of things like landscape history from different cultural contexts. And this is something that we started work on, but we know have a lot more to do. And I think we have a lot of Chinese students, and that has helped us understand some aspects of, you know, cultures from different perspectives, but we do it with working in other countries, with people in other countries as well. So why is landscape architecture important? And as I say, some of the challenges the world has now and in the future is have already been mentioned. But for us, our strategy and our thinking is about addressing some of those major global challenges. So we often refer to the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and our work links in with those goals and has a relationship with them. That also means that some of our work is multidisciplinary. We work with other professions, we work with academics from different disciplines. We're interested in tackling climate change and how can the landscape help in ameliorating some of the impacts of that. There's great biodiversity loss, and some of the scientists in our department are really keen on what can we do about that. We've got colleagues who've recently joined us from South America who are finding this very challenging. And we consider the impact of migration, because all these things that are happening across the world, there will be increased migration, not just from disaster. You know, we've got migration now because of the war in Ukraine. There's migration from the Middle East because of famine. There will also be more migration because of climate change as places become uninhabitable, perhaps just to do with sea level rises, but for other reasons. So the United Nations has a climate change, talks about human health and the health of our planet are inextricably linked. Our civilization depends on human health, flourishing natural systems, and the wise stewardship of natural resources. And this is something that as a department and a team of staff, we try to have at the core of what we're doing. We have two main themes that we work to, which we sort of encompass as what we think landscape architecture can offer to society, whether it's through academia or through practice or in other ways. So we have this theme of hopeful greener futures, because we specialise in designing to address climate and biodiversity crisis. And through teaching and research and practice, we are working towards a cleaner, greener future. The social side is very important to us. So this equity and place, we want to ensure as much as we possibly can that landscape architecture improves its action for social and spatial inclusion. And we're working on that. We're actually working with our professional institute a little bit on that. And we have something called a quality assurance subject-based statement, which is a national thing. And I'm about to chair the advisory group that's going to review that, because this has to happen every now and then. And one of the key things again about is this equity in place approach that is very important. So I just want to say a little bit about why we think students come to Sheffield and why they like to study here. And quite a lot of those students are from China at the moment. So this is the Arts Tower. This is the building I'm actually sat in at the minute. I'm on the 13th floor, so I get a beautiful view over the city, and I think the students like that. We're also right next to a park and a museum. We're a very green city. So apart from that, we are a Russell Group, so we are a research group university. Other places, not everywhere in the UK that teaches landscape architecture has this research underpinning it. So we are unique in that, and we're the only discrete and independent department of landscape architecture. We sit in the same building as the architects and we talk to them, and we have a joint undergraduate course, but we are a discrete independent department. We've just come third in the National Assessment of Research, and in fact the two Universities that came above us don't have landscape architecture, so we're very pleased about that, and that's triggering additional funding. And one of the national newspapers has that we're the best institute in the country offering landscape architecture. So this attracts students to us. We have a great team of people. We're a small department compared to most of the departments in our university. We have 3 professors, 12 lecturers and senior lecturers. We have university teachers who teach and do leadership and admin roles, but don't do research. But we then have a vast array of tutors who are practitioners who come in. So our link with practice is very, very strong, and this is one of the ways. So students are in, there's almost co-production of teaching going on with students. And this broad base of, and you can see some of my colleagues and myself here, means that we have a great base of specializations that include the history of landscape. We have people with art and planning, design, planting, ecology, construction, urban design, increasingly visualization, which isn't something I'm an expert in at all, how we manage our landscapes. Underneath this, we are very focused on people and what the landscape and the outdoor environment can do for people. So I've already mentioned migration, health, children and young people, which is my area in particular, and some people looking at aging and the external environment. Our students learn in this way, so on site. So while we were in lockdown and had to do a lot of online teaching, which was very, very difficult, very intense, very long days, very hard for students, but also for staff, because you didn't even know who was in the room. They might be there, but their camera and microphone might be off. So were they really there? But some of that online teaching is still happening occasionally. So if a teacher falls ill, because we still have people coming down with COVID, we can quickly do an online thing, but it's not our preferred way. We were still sometimes able to go on site visits when we were allowed to go out in small groups, and we made good use of that during the lockdowns. We work with practitioners, we work in the studios, and we do, of course, have lectures as well, but it's a very interactive experience. And if you were to walk around one of our studios today, it's full of models that have made, students have made a lot of mess. We'll have to sort that out. So we are a professional accredited body. The Landscape Institute accredits most of our courses. And we run undergraduate courses. Also have an architect and landscape course, which is unique in the country. I think the leader of it claims it might be, there's not many of them in the whole world. And this is really interesting because students come out at the end of a very long process being accredited and chartered as architects and as landscape architects. It is a long process because of having to do the postgraduate aspect of both courses. We have a suite of postgraduate courses which allows people to come in who have done a completely different degree, and they might do a conversion year and then the professional year. We have a management course. We have people who have done a degree somewhere else and can come and join us for their professional year, and a landscape studies course, which isn't actually credited. We have over 40 PhD students, which is the biggest cohort in the country in the subject. And we have an outstanding research record. And some of those PhD students work very closely with their academic advisors. So our research has recently been rated as 95% out of 100. So it couldn't be much higher as very good. And we're still letting this sink in because this is a really massive thing for us. But those specialisms in our research include landscape planning and natural resource management, ecological design, green infrastructure and urban greening, health, well-being and inclusive landscapes. We have people exploring landscape architecture and design theory, environmental change and future landscapes, urban design, and a lot of us actually look at human environment relationships. And as when I was introduced, my interest was people and the outdoor environment, and has increasing refocus on children and young people. And I think that's really important because in thinking of the future of our world, young people are the citizens of today and are going to be here after some of us are not. And so we owe it to them that we do provide hopeful greener futures for them. We have a series of research clusters. One is called Creative Spatial Practices, which looks at visual and material arts, cultures and technologies. Place Inclusion and Equity looks at some of the spaces that are contested. So, you know, some of my research has been about skateboarders, and sometimes the spaces they use are contested by other users and they think the skateboarders are in the way, when sometimes they're not, it's a perception. But we also have people looking at migrants and what their experiences of coming to different countries. And we have a group called Designed Ecologies, who are redefining the relationship between nature and culture. Some of those colleagues have been working in China as well as in the UK and in other parts of the world. And there's some of the books that have been published out of the department. Some of them are being rewritten now. I know The Dynamic Landscape is being rewritten by Nigel Dunnett at the moment. Just a few examples of how our research, we use it in our teaching, obviously, and the teaching is informed by practitioners, but just a few examples of how some of our research has been used locally, some of this. So in Sheffield, we have got a project which was PhD and supervisors about using the research of the academic about how certain plants absorb air pollutants and using those to create a green barrier around a school and monitoring that air pollution over a period of years. Unfortunately, it started just before COVID, and so when we went into lockdown, the air pollution went down anyway. But there is data that has shown the barrier has reduced the air pollution in the grounds of the school. There is a school in Argentina doing the same, so there's a collaboration going on there, and there are collaborators with the more detailed scientists about the air pollution. And this project is now being supported within the city by the business community, and we had a session about it a couple of weeks ago, launching a design guide. And the aim is there is a lot of schools now very interested in this in Sheffield and the South Yorkshire region that we sit in. And so this is going to become where the impact of the research will begin to be seen very strongly within our own city. One of our other horticultural ecologists, Professor Nigel Dunnett, has done projects called Grey to Green, where taking areas where not air pollution but water management has been something that has been considered. This is in the centre of our city by the law courts, which was a really bland, hard surface area, a horrible place to be. And as you can see, it's now got beautiful perennial plantings which have been researched carefully before they're used here. This is being used, and this scheme is going to extend into other parts of the city centre with some regeneration money for parts of the city centre, because our city centres have suffered a lot during COVID. This professor was involved with work in the Olympic Garden, which some of you may have known about for the 2012 Olympics in London. The other professor who worked with him, James Hitchmo, has now retired, but I think he's still doing some work in China and Australia in his retirement, but not having to teach. One of my areas, improving place spaces, and we had a project that had some funding, not as much as we'd liked, but the aim was to work with communities in Sheffield in social housing, so that's more deprived areas, to help them to remember how to use these forgotten spaces. The playgrounds, if you can see the top picture, had been completely, no money to do anything with, neglected. This community, we've left not just a playground here, and there's some woodland nearby. This could do with more planting associated with it, but the community is continuing to work on this project, raising money and implementing things, as are some of the other communities we worked with, because the funding for this project finished in 2014, but some of these communities have come together now and are continuing to work on something that we were the catalyst to start. And so it's great to see our research about what sort of value a play space can give, which is one of the things I've worked on, can actually change the spaces for some of our communities locally. We have great connections with our industry. We are preparing people to go out and become professional landscape architects, to take this theme of hopeful greener futures out into the profession, to help them deal. I mean, a lot of young people these days are worried about the future of the world. You know, there are protests in many parts of the world about this. And so the fact that we can capture some of that concern and turn it round into something hopeful in their professional world, I think is very, very important. And our graduates are very highly sought after. At the end of year exhibition in June this year, we had employers wanting multiple graduates and we could provide them with. So we have at the moment a great shortage. We are seeking to do what we can to increase perhaps our numbers in a proportionate way that we can manage, but also to meet this enormous need that I think there is. Students have gone on to work in all sorts of places. We've got them working in 70 different countries. So the influence of our research into the teaching goes out and is influencing many different places and locations. We have a great end of year exhibition, and that of course couldn't happen for a couple of years because of COVID. We did one this year. It was a wonderful experience. I think the room was very full. A few people came down with COVID afterwards, but fine. They knew it was a risk. We had 40 landscape practices joining us, and one of our great excitements is that for many years in our own city there have not been many landscape architecture practices, but in the last 3 or 4 years some more have moved here. So our relationship with them and our connections in many ways will strengthen. This great demand for students. The end of year exhibition is something we really like because it's a celebration of the students' work and of what they are going to go and take out into the world. So we see ourselves as trying to drive a positive change through landscape architecture, and in some aspects of our world we're actually challenging some of the existing things that happen in landscape architecture. So we are very passionate about the power of landscape architecture to address some of these pressing global issues for the benefit of people and for the planet. And we see this as happening in a world facing growing social inequality and climate crisis. And we understand and are confident that our profession has the power to design some of these solutions. That means working with other professions as well. In our research, we already work with a wide range of people, say plant scientists, planners, geographers, health scientists. Some of the work is co-produced with practitioners or with end users, like in schools. And our teaching is driven by world-leading discoveries in our research, which influences not only our teaching, but influences the policy and the landscape practice. So one of our students has said that sometimes it's just important to know that you're not the only one who is scared, i.e. of what might happen, or who cares about what happened, and that there are others who want to do something about it too. And I think that captures up what we are seeking to do in researching and teaching and working with practices, working with colleagues in Tonji, because I'm actually currently working on 2 or 3 projects with people in the landscape architecture department at the college in Tonji, and that's a great delight. And the sadness has been that we've not been able to meet each other face to face because of the pandemic that we are living in. But it is still great that we can meet like this. So there's an any questions slide that I think we often always include, but thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Helen. Thank you for your thorough introduction about the program of landscape architecture and the University of Sheffield. And we all know that University of Sheffield it has a prestigious program of landscape architecture, and also you told us about several very interesting and cutting-edge projects The green burial, I really would like to know more about it. Maybe sometime later. Hopefully can see you, as you said, meet you offline. And yeah, also landscape is definitely very good in terms of promote health and well-being. And I believe that some scholars here and also from your side are also working in this field. And this is why we invited Professor Dong Nanan, who has a deep relationship and collaboration with professors from your side. So I would like to invite Dong Nanan to give comment and maybe questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. It's my great honor to participate in such an online talk. I think it's still a very good learning for me from Professor Helen Wu Li. I think it's a great thanks for your concept introduction about the greener future from the landscape architecture perspective. I think it's true that we are really changing the classical understanding of the landscape architecture, which is more and more responsible for the environment and the ecology globally. So I think especially in the recent years, with the support from the alumni from Sheffield University, we co-developed so many very interesting teaching programs together. And in the field of landscape architecture, just as you mentioned, including such a children-friendly community and a community garden, as well as the landscape perception studies. So I just have only one question. I think given the challenges of urban health and climate change, do you think there's any possibility of expansion of our collaboration in more relevant disciplines? For example, the urban planning, urban design, architecture, or even the sociology or medical sciences. Sorry, I mentioned so many disciplines because just as you mentioned, for the greener future, we need maybe more and more interdisciplinary research or the collaboration. So that is just a point I want to ask for your perspectives. Thank you.
Yeah, Nanan, hello, it's lovely to see you. Yes, we have increasingly in the recent years been working in a multidisciplinary way here. We had a big project about improving well-being through urban nature, which had on it health experts. And we still have some projects spinning off from that because it was a big project. Some of the new staff we've had new staff recently who've joined us, and they are, one of them in particular was on that project and is now coming to drive forward the healthy urban landscapes, and she's very, very keen about that. And I know that you've looked at health as well to some extent. So I think that we already have some collaborations going on children's environments. As you know, one of your researchers is working with me on something on grim childhood across different generations, which is very interesting, but also very challenging because of the context of the time that we're doing it. COVID, it's been an issue in the other Pacific Rim countries as well. But I think increasingly working, we are increasingly working in multidisciplinary groups here within our own faculty and university. We have a health research centre that some of my colleagues are working with education that I on many occasions in the past, geography. We have urban planners that some of my colleagues are working with, and I see no reason why there might not be some further opportunities for us to collaborate in these ways. We've already, I think, got an agreement developing on the sustainable urban design side with some of my colleagues and some of your colleagues. But I suspect that there are other things that we could be exploring. We've had some conversations in the past, I think starting with workshops, summer workshops, like I've been involved in one already for you, haven't you? Even online. That's the sort of thing that will be doable. I do look forward to the time when students can come and visit you again and spend time at your workshops. and when staff can as well. So I think looking forward, there's definitely multidisciplinary approaches needed, particularly when we're looking at the people side of landscape and the experience, the health of people, what the experience means for young people, for old people. So I do think that making those links even stronger is going to be increasingly important. I have to say, sometimes there's a pragmatic thing for us as well. Sometimes there isn't research for landscape research. We look at other options. So if we link in our thinking with health, there is sometimes research going on there. There is sometimes in education. Though having said that, our government has recently started a policy about sustainability and climate change agendas in our schools, and they wanted to look at the school grounds. So in a way, we're on a bit of a roll here, and I don't know, you have got child-friendly agenda going on, and you know, I have students do dissertations sometimes exploring that, but I still don't have a big enough picture of what might be going on in China. But I think there are definitely ways that we'll be able to, you know, link people to work together across the water. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Helen. Yeah, in China, we do have several cities already announced that they want to develop as a children-friendly city. And we also have some sort of organization trying to promote in multiple ways, policy, construction, all those multiple fields. So it will be great if you can visit Shanghai sometime soon, working closely with Professor Dong Nannan together. And I do believe that that could be a important topic in the future, not only in landscape architecture, but as you said, in multiple disciplines. Great, thank you. And yeah, also
sorry about that, was a fire alarm. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Also, and last, on behalf of our college, we do hope to further our collaboration on, like, as you said, design workshop, but maybe a double degree, not only at master degree, but also hopefully as PhD degree. Let's think about it. I do think that's a better way to really implement better research, conduct better research together. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So
Thank you.
Thanks, Nana.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's my pleasure here.
Yeah, maybe we could discuss that in details later. Thank you.
Thank you.
Last but not least, I would like to invite our last speaker, Dean and Professor Manuel Blanco from Higher Technical School of Architecture of Madrid, University of Madrid. He actually, is professor of architectural composition in this school. He teaches architectural analysis and also image analysis of the city. And he is the director of the Fashion Design Center of the University Poly de Madrid. And he also is the president of Spanish Conference of School Architecture and the president of European Europe. So it's our great honor to invite Dean Blanco to give his speech. Thank you. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Professor Langwang. It's such a pleasure to be in Tongji again after so much time, too much time. I'm going to try to share something here. Let me see. Okay. Mute. Let me go. Oh, a second. Now, do you see it?
Yes, it's perfect. Thank you.
Teaching how to design architecture is the task that we have as a school of architecture. But sometimes we forget something very important for us is the awareness of how this architecture, the city, the territory, the landscape is being used by our community. We live in interesting times, but this is not always a blessing. Our reality has changed dramatically recently under our eyes. We are in a new reality. Our behavior has been transformed. Use our cities, our housing, our bureaus has been changed in unexpected ways. We still perceive the same war. We still think that architecture happens, but the war is different because only the architecture remains. When we study a system, we know that we have to study elements and we have to study the relationship between them. In our system, all the relationships have changed, have dramatically changed. The way we interact with architecture has dramatically changed during the lockdown, and the change have remained, has permeated the way we are living now. We said we cannot calibrate yet. Pandemic has pushed all the boundaries of our life. Architecture is being now transforming the nature, changing it, moving, making the spaces. But lockdown have changed the way we relate with architecture, we relate with our cities. That behavior is remaining. That behavior is remaining a few years later. We always have used the terraces of our space. Spain is a country that lives outdoors, but we are now increasing that way because for a few months, that was the only place where we can meet our families, our friends, the people we wanted to hug and we were not allowed to do it. Our warmest cities are receiving, as Madrid, the people teleworking. Madrid real estate has been completely crazy because a lot of people have decided to live in our country and to work from here. Cities like New York are having a very important problem with the space for office, for bureaus, are having an important crisis because people are teleworking, people are moving. I am not pretty sure if the spaces from where that teleworking is being done are prepared for doing it. You don't know where I am. In this moment, I am in my house. I am not even in my bureau. I have a wonderful house behind me, but I have been living all the pandemic times in Barragan House in Mexico, because that has been the background of my life in the online times. My school spaces have to become two different spaces at the same time. During the pandemic, the school was empty. Only an exhibition of our women that we have organized for the age of March, just a few days before we closed the school, were living there and were living alone. And we were living in the digital world. We were living in another space. We have to duplicate the school. The school have to be two spaces, one online and one digital and one real, and the real was empty. When we came back, we found that. I really loved Li Chaning today, how he was showing how he was studying the plants. I have a forest. My garden was a forest because nature was taking the spaces that we have taken from it before. A few years ago, I had the privilege of doing an introduction for the UN, United Nations Habitat dossier. And I was explaining how the space, architectural space, have dramatically changed now. Architectural space now is a double space. It's the real and the digital. And I was pinpointing that for me, the moment that happened was the moment that Pokemon started in our life. We were chasing small animals through our cities, and we were seeing through special lenses that were our smartphones. Our phones were the way we were seeing that double reality that was happening. Nowadays, with lockdown, nowadays with COVID, we have discovered that we can meet in that world. This day, I have spent a long night talking with you. We are not sharing any space, but we are sharing a knowledge space. We are sharing a communication space. We have been working for decades to get a sustainable life, and architecture is an important part of the procedures to arrive successfully to spare energy, to recycle our buildings, to use all structures in the new ways that our society requires. We have to modify also the habits in order to live in our planet. We have to discover how to use our resources. We have to create an awareness of the resources of the planet. Tomorrow, I am opening an exhibition with Professor Héctor Navarro, that is in our public today, about the water. The exhibition is called We Are Water. It's done from the Madrid region government. And we are explaining how one of the most important resources of our planet is so small. If you see the image, you see the image of our planet, but that small blue ball is all the water of the planet. The white one is the water, the sweet water that we can use, but the really one that we can use is the really, really small one to your right. It's the only disposable in the planet. We can't forget that this is like that. And we have to make how to solve it and how we can do these things. We are doing in this exhibition all kind of areas to show how everything we are doing in our life is an issue, and we can contribute, every one of us. My school has always been involved in how to blend contemporary monuments and the old ones, how to blend the contemporary architecture with the national heritage. Our alumni, our professors, our former professor has been doing that work all their time, because architectural national heritage is the life of our city. The portals will communicate our past and our future, which hosts our spirit, where we store the beauty, the technique, the creativity of every generation. You know that we are a practicing school. Well, this is Professor Moneo, Murcia project. This is Professor Navarro Valdebec in Murcia as well, in Old Mill. This is Professor Langarita and Professor Navarro, Sierra Belga in Madrid. This is Temple of Diana in Mérida by Professor Sánchez Garcia, or Professor Paredes and Pedrosa work in a Roman place. Our city is being transformed. How we deal with it is very important for us. How we blend the Royal Palace with the new collections, Royal Collections Museums, the new gallery that Professor Tuñón and former Professor Mansilla did. How we are managing the new architecture in the image of our city. I am doing the inside. Professor Héctor Navarro is helping me. I am doing now the museography of this building. But my school have changed. Professor Garrido and his team make Madrid Rio. Madrid all slaughterhouse was transformed by our school as well, or former professor of us. We are seeing the Andrés Jaque, the Dean of Columbia project in Matadero. We are seeing now Anton Garcia Abril and Deborah Mesa project, or we are seeing Arturo Franco or Iñaki Carnicero and Lorena del Rio interventions there. We use Matadero in the moment of COVID. We have always an open doors school. We show our production to the city. And this time, with the protocol of COVID, we decided to go inside Matadero. And we decided to show to the city all these things, all the creativity of our students, all the image. At the same time, the UIA was doing the Affordable Housing Activation Forum. They visit our work. The school make a big intervention also in the forum. And now we are still participating in the platforms that has been created. Our school is this. Our school is full of people, full of life, full of work, full of projects, of designs, all the designs and studios involved. Our school is a huge school. When we were doing, after the pandemic, 3 years of graduation, we had to go to a huge stadium made by our alumni, by Cruz Ortiz, the Athletic School. But our school is also 4,000 students, almost 4,000 students, with more than 300 students in the PhD programs. 5 years ago, we were closing the old PhD program, and we have to ask for the graduation of the PhD program to the mayor of the city. We have to ask the city hall, because it was the only place where we could fit all of them. Our school is the people, the visitors. Kere coming to talk to our students, Rosanna and Lyndon, one of our last visitors before the pandemic times. The students, the mass of the students, the critical mass of the students. We are in a school that comes from the 16th century, comes from the times of Philip II, that afterwards went to the academia, to the Royal Academy of Fine Arts, that gave us a month ago the award of the academia, the gold medal. And in that times, from the academia, we have a wonderful library, a wonderful teams. Well, Professor Li Shaning and Professor Pei Ming visiting our library a few years ago. You are welcome to see it again in May. Or seeing that we have still stories from the academia times, or seeing the monuments that we took with us, because we were also the National Museum of Architecture for a long time during last century. Professors like Alberto Campo Baeza are giving all his archive to our archive. We have more than 200,000 drawings in different documents. We have the visitors that are drawing in our visitor book, like Renzo Piano, like Momoyo Kajima, but we have also the engineers that come to us, because in our school, architecture and building engineer are the same profession. Spanish architects are two professions at the same time. We design, but we make also structure, we calculate. All these things linked to architecture. That means that our students are not only projecting, but are also learning how to build these things, even the old architecture or the new one. And our practice as this building from one of our professors is showing the Munch Museum in Solo, of the Juan Herreros, or this building of Iñaki Ábalos in Logroño are proving we know how to build, and we teach how to build. The last project of our students are very impressive, not only in the form, but also in the way they deal with the building construction project, because we give the license to them. Our school is the licensing system of the state. When they go from our school, they don't need to make any stage. They don't need to do anything at all. They can work as architects, as professionals is what they are. And they work everywhere in the world. 2 nights ago, while I was preparing this speech, I was receiving in my Instagram this information. UN Studio has won a big competition in Madrid, but the leader of this competition for UN Studio was Enrique Lopez, one of our former students. With pandemic, we are reflecting. I am not going to show you all the system and all the things that the school have and all the programs. You can reach that in our web. But yes, the things that we are again seeing, we are very worried about what's happening in the rural world. We have a center studying everything that have to be with the village, with a territory that is more and more desert. And we now are studying what is being done. What are the system of building? What is the cultural patrimony, the cultural heritage there, how the rural landscape is being transformed. We belong to a big alliance called ELISA, mostly an alliance of engineers, but this big alliance that our university is the leader in Europe in order to build a new European university has helped us with something, a transversal way of seeing these things. We are working with all our colleagues through Europe, and we are leading 2 different communities. One called Sustainable City and Communities. They are now working with the European Space Agency in order to make sustainable all the buildings that they have, but they are also, what you see here, a think tank and a proposal. You are invited to share it with your students or to participate if you want, but we are also involved in issues of poverty of energy. The energy issues are very important for us. Energy issues and how to work with the different neighborhoods done during the last 2 years. We have also the decarbonization system community, and we have also another community working for emission-free campus. So all these things that are linked to the city, not only the design, but the health of the cities, are important for us. That's one guidebook produced by our professors and students for the government. And we had Beatriz Colomina, our dear friend, 3 weeks ago visiting us and talking about health and architecture. Other alliances are also in this school. Today, I share this screen with the Dean of Politecnico di Milano, Andrea Campioli, and also with TU Berlin. The 3 of us have an alliance called Alliance for Tech in Architecture. Our students pass through the 3 universities in order to do their studies. This is the poster of the workshop that was made in Madrid a month ago. And it was a very specific Erasmus program. The first time that was called something called a BIP, a very complicated to get from Europe, a blended intensive a program that allows students to share and to be with us at the same time. But we are also in Tonji. Sorry, Lishonin, but this year is not only CAUP anniversary, and happy birthday for that. It's also the 10th anniversary of the Sino-Spanish campus. And we have been 10 years together of your life. So happy birthday also to the Chinese Spanish campus, that we are very proud of it. For us, it's very important the gender issues. We have more than 60% of female students, 64. And for us, every gender issue is in our programs. There is a special chair, a UNESCO chair, dealing with the issues. Inés Sánchez de Madariaga is our major specialist, and she has been teaching the last 12 years a gender diversity and planning in urbanism program. All kinds of guides and works and research has been done for all our community, for the different Spanish regions about that. All our students has been participating in that. This is one of the events talking about the women of our school, but we are also involved in diversity issues. This is the image of the minimum equality of the Spanish from a Congress, LHJTB Congress done in our school. With the passing of COVID times, the school have a new life. Every week is a new Congress. Every week is a new meeting. We have had all kinds of architectural historian Congress from everywhere in the world. 3 the last year, all kinds of urbanism meetings. Because architecture at this moment is in the map. In Europe, it's in the map. President von der Leyen have launched a new proposal called the New Bauhaus. And in the New Bauhaus is the first time in my life that I have heard a politician talking about beauty and about architecture and about inclusivity and about how we have to live together. The school has been very involved. This is General Director Iñaki Carnicero, one of our alumnus and former professors as well. He was teaching everywhere in the United States, and he is the leader of this in Spain. I have been moderating all the things that the Spanish government have done in the issue. The school has produced for the government all the web and links about the New Bauhaus issues. We hosted in Madrid at the end of August, beginning of September, the conference of the European School of Architecture. And I chose as a topic towards the new European Bauhaus, how that is going to involve not only a budgetary issue, but in a way, our teaching. How the new ways and priorities that Europe is putting is going to be in our teaching. I am running out of my time, And time is the most precious that architecture have. Architecture is a space and time.
I think you have, several minutes.
I know, but I want to enjoy.
Especially for you, because special thanks that you stayed all the long day through very early morning at 2 a.m.
But you know, listening, I have enjoyed every single minute. Sharing my time with you, that is like most important, all Spanish philosophers said, Seneca, the Roman philosopher, the precious thing is our time. And the sharing of our time in teaching is very important. The sharing of our time with our colleague, with Momoyo Kajima, in the middle of an installation being made by Boa Mistura in the middle of the space of my school. Time and space are linked. We are in a new reality. We are in a new world. And in this new reality, in this new world, architecture is one of the solutions. It doesn't have to be the problem. We have to teach our students how to deal with that, how to deal with the expectation that this new world are giving us, and how to solve not a problem, but to use it in order to have a challenge to be solved by us. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you to all of you for hearing me and to have the patience to hearing my awful English, that I always think that my accent is very, very complicated. Listening, you know that I would like to have done it in Chinese. I was very impressed by my colleagues from University of Chile, but well, time is there, and maybe with the times, in the end of my life, I will be able to do it as well. Congratulations to Tonji, happy birthday, and congratulations to a wonderful school and a wonderful university that is able to bring all of into Spain the day. For me, it was the night with you. Thank you, Alicia.
Thank you. Thank you, Manu. I think it's a wonderful and heartwarming, and also a very kind of poetic, lecture or presentation. It's really wonderful. It reminds me of, a very long history with exam. I think it starts all from almost 20 years ago when I was just finished my PhD. I remember this is the year 2004. So I just started to be assistant professor at Tongji. So that summer, I brought a group of architects and professors from Tongji. It's like 10 or 11 of us. We visited the first time in my history, the first trip to Madrid. And, we were holding a list we found from the Spanish architecture magazine, Il Croquis, to look at all the big stars and, wonderful buildings that, on the list. So because Sancho Madridejos, at that time, they had some experience and they are doing some projects in China. So through the introduction of our distinguished professor, Zheng Shiling, Sancho Madridejos brought us to dinner in a Spanish restaurant and showed us the earlier editions of Il Croquis, where their books, their works as students were published at the very first issue of Il Croquis. And then we traveled through his introduction, we got to know Alberto Campo Baeza. So starting from then, for many years, we were not only, dear colleagues, but also a very close friend for many years. My daughter kept a sketch of her when Alberto Campo was a visiting scholar at Columbia. We met again there in New York and Manhattan, and he drew a sketch of my daughter when she's 4 or 5 years old. So there are a lot of memories associated with ISAM. And also now I have many professors and luminaries from ISAM. On the long list, we have Sancho Madridejos, Rafa Monel, Mencia Tunion, Iñaki Abalos Anton, and Alberto Campo Baeza, and Luis Fernandez Galeano. So, and of course, one of the most important, Manuel Blanco. So I think this is a long history to be remembered. I think through your presentation, it does reminds me of, all the history and memory in my deep part. So I think it's really a wonderful presentation. Thank you, Manuel. I know that ASM has a very excellent tradition in architecture, and it's very unique also in the world, because they try to bring, as you said, the students in your school is not trained as an architect, as a designer, but also they can calculate the structure and calculate the every facilities that needed to execute a building. So I think which is a very comprehensive and balanced kind of education for design, in regarding architectural and design and art and the literate humanity, and also technology. I think it's one of the best architectural education system in the world that everyone admired. So I think this is something that we talked about, a double degree in the PhD level, and also other fields, but on past pandemic 3 years, nothing could be done. But now I think it's the time to follow up and to try to make everything growing again. Thank you again.
Thank you, Lishani. Let's think on that PhD program and double that we have to do. That's
right. Perfect.
Thank you for the comment from Dean Lee, and also section for the question about, and also the activities during the pandemic from Dean Blanco. I do believe that soon we could see you offline and really further our collaboration in terms of double degrees. And I'm not sure if we still have time, I would maybe ask one question. Do you think the pandemic and the high technology right now will actually change the way of exhibition? Actually, I guess this is the question for both of you. Also, I'm also wondering the way of changing for the exhibition will actually revise the education of architecture. Thank you. Maybe
Manuel, it's your presentation. You want to answer first?
Pandemic has changed everything, and we don't know yet to what degree. But we are in a completely different world, as I said before. Also, for exhibitions have changed. I always have said that, and that's for Navarro, that we don't write articles, we do exhibitions, because we architects build in space. So we are doing a very important research and curating. I have been working for years in the water resources, because I have been working the last 30 years with the companies, the water company system of Spain, Canal de Segunda de Madrid. And that now I am putting it on the air. I am putting in spaces. The books I write are books that the people walk through, and they go in the middle, and they are perceiving the things and the knowledge like architecture. The times, I still remember in Venice, when the Congress of ICANN was in Venice, I was invited to talk there, and I was explaining how the digital, for me, the most important is not when I do a very is when I use it in a great way. How the digital had already permeated, and I was talking 15 years ago, our life. Now, with the pandemic, all that has been systemized. People know how to see through screens, what's this virtual reality. I am building in this moment a 35 meters screen with DC. Having DC, I will send you pictures later on. And if you are coming, the next 6 months, the exhibition is going to be in Madrid. And we have now a new beach in Madrid inside the deposit of water of the Canal Isabel II with DC. Come to my exhibition all the times. And afterwards, we have a huge tunnel, and we are under the sea and studying the under the sea. And that people accept, because people with the lockdown, with the pandemic, learn how to live a reality in another way. But we need also the real world. We need to hug our friends. I need to hug Li Chaoning and to working again my school, because we cannot lose the human contact. I have enjoyed sharing with you this night, this date, but I would have liked it a lot more, sharing also the food with you, or going with Li Chaoning to buy tea in the small shop close to Tongji that he showed me years ago.
Thank you, Manuel. You share exactly the same opinion with me, because I do feel, although after the pandemic, there are, people are saying that in the future that exhibitions, not only exhibitions, but also design education is totally changed. Maybe we don't need a real space for people to gather together, but I don't think so. Although there are like they have a metaverse, and they could do exhibition in the virtual reality. But I do think, as you said, the real contact between people is very important. The exhibition is not only a place for people to look at the images and models and drawings, but also it's a place for people to talk. It's like in the core value of the Western world, since the ancient Greece and Rome, that the piazza talk is some place where people can get together on the piazza and they share their opinions and talk freely. This is very important in the intellectual life, but also an everyday life of people. It's really very, very much needed. Even after the pandemic, I think it's even more needed than ever. So I think although there are new format and technologies to be applied to exhibitions, but I do feel the true value of the real space and contact, as you said. I really agree.
Thank you. Thank you, Dean Blanco, and thank you, Dean Li. I believe that even though the pandemic and high technology will really influence our life for a long term, but maybe just because of that, we can find another way to reinforce our sense of space and also time, as Manuel mentioned. Thank you both. And I guess now it's the time for our second group.